was okay. I think I got a little nervous. I think when you're doing anything new, I think there's always a little bit of a component of, you know, I guess, novelty and different stress that you're not ready for. So, but I think it was fine. Um, Actually, for some reason, I can see only myself. I don't like that. How do I change that? I want to change to gallery. Okay, there we go. All right. Oh, wow. 39 people today? Oh, big group. Okay. So it was interesting. It was a really interesting experience. I have another one coming up at Cornell in April, so I'll be more prepared. This one didn't have teleprompts. This one didn't have timing, and I decided not to do the slides, so it was just me talking. Which, in retrospect, I think it went okay. I had three of my friends there. There was a colleague of ours, actually, Janet, you know her, Ellie Cohen. So she lives there, so she came to support me. My own chief of division of geriatrics came, Dr. Prather, and then one of our board members, JD Telesic, came as well. So it was nice. It was nice to have friends there and be supported. So the venue was very tiny. I was really surprised. It was like a little art building, and they just had a small auditorium in there. But it was sweet because it was kind of intimate, and because of that, it was in a way probably easier for some people. For me, actually, I prefer a bigger auditorium just because I'm so used to giving lectures to big crowds. So yeah, once I got going and I gotten through like a second half of the talk, I think it improved. But in the beginning, I was a little bit nervous. Maybe it won't show. Sometimes I can hide it well. So we'll see. They're gonna take about 3 months to edit. I think I'm gonna have some raw image parts from friends who were filming, but it's probably not something worth putting because I don't even think we're allowed to share it until formal release of the video occurs. I don't think they want folks to. Photos are fine, so I posted some of the photos on my Facebook if anybody want to take a look, and Instagram, so you can take a look at that. Two talks so my talk was on polypharmacy, and I'll give you a couple of sentences from the talk just to give you a flavor. And then, of course, you're going to be able to hear it in detail. So there's one component where I give statistics. So in 1970s, polypharmacy didn't exist. By 1990, it was 10% of adult population. By 2010, it doubled to 20%. Now in 2025, it sits at around 30%, and trajectories by mid 2030s, it'll be 40% of entire population of adults. And right now, it's contributing to 250,000 deaths every year. So causes 250,000 deaths every year. And if we change nothing, this is the actual part of the talk. So if we're continue on this trajectory, in just 2 or 3 decades, the medications, the very tool of modern medicine, will claim more American lives than any disease we ever fought. So this is a punchline from that was sort of after that it's switched to a bit more positive note. So I was surprised that there was not more like what, like I think people were kind of following me because I was going into this not right away. Like it took a couple of paragraphs before I got to that number. But anyway, so that was one big piece, and then I present the case, and actually somebody who's, I don't know if she's here today, but it's one of our patients who's often a visitor here, even in this program. And I just present a real story. Her case is published in peer-reviewed journal. It's a chronic back pain case. So we present her, and I presented her. Yeah, and then the last part was about some of the tools. So AI, I talked a little bit about AI, how AI platform is already allowing us to understand the dangers of medications we're taking and can suggest some modifications. Second point was talk to your doctor, making sure that you review every single medication you take, understand why you're taking, and can you stop it, and can you change it to non-pharmacological safer method. right? And then the third is a kind of a call to action. Go find integrative medicine providers. And then, of course, I didn't say go find integrative medicine provider who can take your insurance, because that would be tall order. Yeah, and then the final sentence I really liked. A friend of mine from Sufi community from Germany helped me with this. So the final goes like this. The chronic pain taught us something crucial. The healthcare system does not have to be more expensive, and it can be more effective if it centers the care around the health, not pills. And why pilfer all ills when 80% of all ailments are preventable? Medicine will always need breakthrough treatments, but what it needs today, even more, is the whole system change that will make our health its priority. That's the final sentence. So, yeah, that word pilfer, I think was perfect. It's a little light. The whole talk, you can imagine that this was the by far the darkest talk of all. So the other two talks were really cool, that I kind of take home. One was on the fact that philanthropy is dramatically changing as we speak. Millennials and Gen Z do not give in large amounts in the same way that people used to be. Successful philanthropic organizations no longer going after very rich people. It's unnecessary and it's useless. So there are this new campaigns all centered around content creation. And so the person who was giving it, I'm probably going to try to see if she'd be willing to talk to us a bit more to aim. But basically, point is content is driving in the next wave of all of the philanthropy. Social media content is what's going to drive 90% of all philanthropy, because that's how you get in front of people. And Gen Zs and millennials, they only give through that means. They no longer go to the expensive dinners. They no longer have money to give in bulk the way that traditionally nonprofits existed. So that's a huge shift in my perception, because now I realize how important it is for us to keep doing what we're doing today right here, and also keep really reaching people through various visual methods through social media. I think that's really so. The fact that the next since I'm talking about this, I may as well add that. So we just, thanks to Stephanie, who's right here, put Stephanie on the spotlight. Thank you, dear, for finalizing our updated website and making sure that our 2026 ski drive is up and running. So you can donate if you want already. So I'm sure either Janet or Stephanie will give you a link in a second in the chat. So my training has been very suboptimal this year, but you can see I'm busy, so I think that's okay. I will finish the race. I hope I will not die. And next year I will do a lot better. Next year I'll be back to Berkey, which is American Berkey in Wisconsin, from Cable to Hayward. And this year I'm going to be in Oslo, and that's considered by many the hardest race in the world, because first 20 kilometers is you gain 5-kilometer elevation from 400 meters to 5,400. So that's a toll. That's a big 20 kilometers up the hill going nonstop. And then it gets easier after that. So I'm dreading that, but I'll just be slow. It's okay. I don't need to prove anything to anybody. I don't need to aim for any time. I just need to finish before they close the race, which is probably going to be doable. But it's a really meaningful race. It's a historic race. There's a legend of Prince Haakon, or Hakan. I don't know how you say it. That he was carried on the back, so I have to carry a 3.5 kilo backpack as part of the race. Yeah, on top of it. I know. And it's 54 kilometers. It's not 50, so it's a little bit longer. And it's classic style, which I haven't practiced in 37 years. So that wasn't easy to go back to. But I had some good days here because we have a snow still. I'm gonna practice a little bit more on the weekend. So it is what it is. But yeah, so point being is what you may see us advertising in different means. There's some Facebook posts. If you're interested, and I actually would like to talk about this for a minute, I do believe that cross-country skiing is one of the most underappreciated and one of the healthiest sports that people can engage at any age. It's a very low risk sport unless you do something crazy like me going on uphill and then crazy downhill. But if you don't do that, if you pick flats, the risk of falls, while it's of course there, but you're falling on the snow, right? It's not biking when you fall off the bike at 20 miles an hour and well, that may not end well. Most of the falls on cross country skis are just falls. You don't break anything, you're fine. And it's a very whole body, right? So versus running, biking, in many sports, rowing, in many sports you engage, well, rowing probably closer to that because you have upper and body and lower. But in many sports, we just engage, endurance sports, we engage lower body only, but skiing is one sport where everything works. The back works, the legs work, the shoulders work, the arms work. So yeah, you have a whole body. I mean, pretty much skiing is one of few sports where you have every single core muscle engaged. Abdomen is very strongly engaged. In fact, the really top leaders in the skiing, they're spend just as much time building very strong core abdominal muscles that can be working long time, as much as back. Because in fact, in order for you to appropriately, correctly engage double pulling with two hands down, abdomen needs to be extremely strong. So, and since I started doing classic, my wife said my six pack pop up, which I never had one. So that's that's a funny benefit right there for you. So yeah, and that's another thing. So in contrast to running, cross country skiing is very light on you, so there's not a lot of um, wear and tear, right? You gliding, and actually, I feel like that the why the sport is so great is that you can pick your own pace, whether it's faster or slower, and you're gonna get a great workout no matter what, without really over pushing and overdoing. And because also there's no pounding, if you have, say, bad knees, you can still do it. Now, there are, of course, certain things that you have to have a basic technique learned, and that may take some lessons. It's not it's not trivial at all. In fact, if you never tried it and you're going to try it, I probably suggest get a class, because otherwise there are certain weight distribution shifts that if you don't do them right, you're going to feel awful and you're just going to feel like nothing is happening. You're just putting a lot of work and you're tiring out and you're not moving. But once you get the sense of gliding, it's magical. Like I just tell you, like once I realized that I never liked running, I only did running because my father was a runner and marathon runner. So anyway, so if you guys have questions about skiing, by all means, put them in the chat. I don't have medical updates, except that I will tell you the second talk, I will reserve it to our practice today. And I'm actually going to try to ask Carol to come and join us and give us a talk. Carol was the speaker who went right after me, and she talked about, she's a social worker with more than 30 years of experience in behavioral health, and I was very impressed with her talk. I think she had the best talk yesterday, way better than mine. All right. Okay, what counts as polypharmacy? 5 or more medications, formal definition. Although in reality, probably any medications that are unnecessary. So maybe you're taking 2, but 1 is unnecessary. Theoretically, you could call that polypharmacy. Yeah, Jennifer.
The question was, how long do you have to be taking something? If you take an ibuprofen for 5 days, does that
Yeah,
add
no,
to your 5?
right. Right. No. So we're talking about chronic intake, of course, right? So we're not talking about taking 1 pill. The reason I often don't differentiate is philosophical. It's the pill for every ill narrative. So let me give you another piece from the talk. I have this component there is somewhere between countless TV drug ads and desires for quick fix, we all got entrained this idea of pill for every ill. And changing this belief is much harder than changing any policy. And I also have another piece where I say, and in that mix of all this overstimulation and incorrect information, we forgot the true wisdom that the wound is the place where light enters you, as Rumi put it. In other words, chronic illnesses is our guides. There are our own opportunities to figure out what went off the balance, how to get back to balance, and how to regain the health and get deeper meaning in life. But we don't do that, right? I mean, we just keep looking for a solution, how to get rid of a problem. But often we're forgetting that the point here, the problem there in the first place, is because something is off balance, something is shifted typically, right? And so it doesn't mean we shouldn't be symptom managing or that we shouldn't be improving suffering or decreasing suffering, but it also means that we're missing a lot of opportunities to understand why the condition is there. Because if you don't ask the question, how am I going to go back to balance before? Well, and that's the strength of integrative medicine, right? We're not trying to symptom manage. We're trying to improve the health, thinking that when you work on a health while you're also treating the symptom at the same time, you eventually going to break through and heal the condition, because you'll gain the knowledge that you need to gain, and you'll understand either what went off the balance, or if the condition comes from particular exposure or it comes from psyche or spiritual domain, you can get through all that. We just don't have the system aligned with this logic, right? And that's what we're trying to do here. You guys here, we're trying to have programs like this, and I think that's the basically, I feel like that's the really AIM's mission, is not only to treat patients but to disseminate this knowledge, which of course any good large integrative medicine organization that's trying to do education is trying to disseminate this message. The Office of Integrative Medicine is doing the same thing, just through more of an academic means rather than direct to patients. All right. I'm going to go through questions because I want to catch up on the chat. Steph, thanks so much for posting the link. You got to keep going or you'll freeze. Yeah, there is that. And especially during the race, it's really tough because your clothing have to be perfect. You wear too much layers or too warm, you sweat, you killed. You don't wear enough, you freeze, and you're dead. So there's not a lot of room for errors there. Last year, I did amazingly well. I had my racing cover. The top is the racing suit, which is a very kind of flexible, really thin, but very windbreaker material, and then 2 thermals underneath. I'll do the same this year since it worked this. But if the temperature is cold, who knows? How do you keep energy? And great question. So I last year I screwed up. I mean, it was the first race. I didn't know anything. So I listened to my coach. I did everything what coach said. And when the race started, I forgot to close the hydration tube cap. So by the time I get to around, maybe first 7 or 8 kilometers, I'm like, all right, time to start hydrating a little bit. It's completely ice frozen. Can't get anything out. So I carried the whole pack with me throughout, and then I had to stop at every hydration station. But then I stuck the tube into the short. So after about another 45 minutes, it finally warmed up and melted. So I was using it. But so I'm gonna do a mix of things this time, and I will take food. Last year I did not eat anything at all. Like I can easily go for 4 hours during exercise with just hydration. Hydration is the must, especially when it's cold, because you're actually losing more fluid when you're cold than when you're hot. And often it's completely misunderstood. because you need to warm up the airways and you need to moisten them. So you're actually spending water on that. So definitely hydration is required, but eating is optional. But this one, because I think I may end up being around 6.5 hours, I'm probably going to take some food just in case if I start feeling weak. Usually people use those, gooey packs the way the runners do. I don't do any of that. I hate that synthetic crap. So I tend to usually have dried apricots, and also like I have these bars that are a mix of nuts, dates, and I think there's some seeds also. So like they're just, and then chocolate. Like I actually think that I like chocolate. And I would love to, like, my best, of course, would be to get some sweet coffee somewhere halfway through with just sugar. But that's not, nobody ever serves that. I've heard of races where they do that, but that's because it's obviously expensive. Um, so, but I don't like doing the GUIs. So if you don't do GUIs, there's no any other way to get caffeine. So, but I also have very special electrolytes. If anybody's interested, I can share it with you. Some of you already share them with you. I like the ribose. I do think that it, at least for me, high dose ribose during the race seems to make a difference. And then also I add a little bit of honey or just pure sugar to it. So I have a little bit of a calories constantly going with hydration, just like, a little bit. It's not very sweet because it cannot be. If the hydration becomes too dense, it actually can potentially cause more problems than benefits. So you have to be very careful. And usually for a race like this, I need about 1.5 liters, if anyone interested. But and that's what I'm planning to take with me. So that'll be 3.5 kilos plus the 1.5 liters of fluid plus food, and I'm required to bring spare dry clothing. It's a part of the race requirement, and the emergency blanket. But those things don't weigh much. They actually can be counted for 3.5 kilos, so that'll probably be part of the weight. Hope I answered that question. Yeah, yeah. My wife kept joking like I should start looking up in my mirror when I'm driving to see if pharma paparazzi are following me after the talk goes out, since if people listen to what I say, they have a lot of money to lose. But no, I actually, the whole talk, I never critiqued the pharmacy once. And I am not, and I don't want to do that. That's actually not what I'm saying. I'm saying that we are, as a society, responsible for this mess. Pharmaceutical industry advertising, that's the consequences of us allowing them to do that. If they get stopped, which supposedly, I don't know if you believe it or not, but RFK claims that he's going to stop the pharmaceutical advertising. So yeah, peanut butter. Nah, I'm not a big fan. Cacao nibs. Nah, you can't really chew anything during the race. It's very difficult. It's very high risk. Well, maybe if you're really luxury recreational, fine. But even though I definitely recreational skier, but I used to be seriously competitive in my youth, so there's still a little bit of that ego in there. I would put it that way. And so I am not gonna like, I will have speed, like especially on certain parts where it's flat. I will be going like it's not even in a classic. I can keep up under 3 minute kilometer if I really push. So I mean, I can. I'm not in a shape that my coach is actually going to be there. So my coach Dasha, who is a head of the Nordic Ski Lab. So if anybody interested in it, if you guys ever decide to take this up serious, I'll hook you up. It's very inexpensive. It's $450 a year. You get monthly meetings. You get unlimited teaching videos. You can ask any question. And also it includes additional monthly 30-minute check-ins for free. So it's actually quite a lot of care in essence. I don't use all of it, but you can if you want to. And it's great because you can actually learn once you get the basics. Now, of course, to start, you need to have a one-on-one or a small group on the snow. So if you're doing virtual coaching, it's not easy to do. But with Dasha, what I do is I would record the video, send it to her, and she'll critique it back. So and then just a couple of back in December, I went over to spend a couple of days personally with her in Calgary, skiing on the Olympic track, which was really cool. Dark chocolate covered almonds. Again, I can't really eat nuts during the race, in my opinion. They have to be fully broken, like the bars I like, because they're kind of chopped up. So you just, you swallow it quickly, because I don't, chewing would be, for me, it's not easy. Maybe for some people. So I stopped. I used to wear heart monitor. I have this, which has been collecting dust. Oh, it's just unplugged you. So this is a Garmin. So it has, supposedly, this is like most expensive, is my first 50th birthday present from my family. So it has a pulse. It has VO2, which is not accurate. It's obviously tracking the distance. You can play music off of it on right straight into your earpiece. So it's a pretty sophisticated thing. I did all of that last year, and I think this year I was like, screw all this. I don't have time. I don't have. I'm not going to be able to do it. It's just, there's no point. My different goals. My goal is to have fun, to really enjoy the race, because there's going to be a lot of different people, and not worry about anything. So the way I've been training this year is comfort. So I pushed to a point where I know I could easily do it. So that's about 70-80% of my capacity. And then when I start slowly tiring out, I slow down, and then I just have a goal for the day. So if I'm going to do an hour, I'm just going to do an hour. So I start that hour in a pace that I can sustain for a full hour. And if I tire out toward the end of the hour, I start slowing down. So that gets me in the right space, in the right mind. And then I do a lot of conditioning. So I have two personal trainers. One is Pilates, and one is actually an athlete trainer, so specifically works with athletes. And so they're giving me certain things to do. And Pilates, I felt, was really instrumental for me last year. So I've been continuing, because I feel it helps to really engage muscles better. But I'm not planning wearing anything this year. I'm not even going to wear the Garmin. So no Garmin and no Oura Ring. I'm not going to track time at all. I'll have my phone on me, and I'll probably going to have an earpiece for the music. Yeah, and and I will turn on the software on this, so it'll be inaccurate, but it'll be good enough. So every kilometer, I'll get a nudge in my ears as to how I'm doing. So I'll be able to pace myself based on that. But that's all I'm gonna do. No heart monitor, none of that. I realize that is all critical if you're setting yourself up for a specific goal, and if you really want to get to a certain, if you need to modify your pace. I'm not planning on that. I will modify my pace based on how I feel only. And I feel like in this case, technology will only interfere with that. Dark chocolate covered coffee beans. Ooh, that sounds awesome. Again, chewing them. Yeah, that's actually something I may consider taking. Thanks, Jennifer. That actually may make sense, because that's the only way you can get a little bit of caffeine in kind of a more natural way. I love them, by the way. They're really tasty, but you do have to chew them. But the good news is that the skiing is like biking. So if you're on a down, or a little bit down, or more flat, you can coast, and I'm very good at this, since I also downhill ski. So it's probably the best thing of my technique, is that I can go downhill at any speed and maintain stability. Just trained enough for that. So I can actually eat and drink on the downhill, where I don't have to think about my breath, and I don't have to pull. I can just tack and have the snack and the hydration right in there while you're tacking like this. All right. Insure for beverage. Oh no, absolutely not. No. Insure? Oh no. First of all, I hate that shit. Sorry. Oh, this is getting recorded. Oh boy. Yeah, no, Ensure is a synthetic drink. I don't recommend it. I mean, it's fine if you need it in the situations where that's the best tolerated food, and you're having a hard time with anything else, and you need to get a lot of calories. Remember, the race is not about getting calories in at all, right? In fact, if I keep the certain pace, I cannot take any carbs, because the point would be carbs will push me out of the ketosis, and I'm almost always switching about hour and a half, 2 hours in. And once I switched, I don't tire out. I mean, I can go all day with that pace, because once you adapt it to ketosis, there is unlimited amount of calories, right? So I could maintain this pace for days if needed. So that the calories is not an issue. The issues are sugar sometimes can drop in the blood to a point where you feel like, I wouldn't say depressed, but until you pass certain point and that second breath comes in, that can be dragging you. Like, and remember, the such a long races, half of the race, 2/3 of the race, if you're conditioned okay, is all about mental state. So if your mental state is sinking because your like sugar is dropping, that's nasty, and no one wants to get there. So a lot of the times people consume carbs because they don't want to end up in that sinkhole. So they know themselves, and I rarely get to that sinkhole. But this is a different. This is much longer race, much more grueling, and because of elevation up and down, and also potentially we don't know, right? So March 14, Norway, it could easily be minus 20 Celsius, and they're not going to cancel the race. So if something like this happens, then I just don't even know, right? I haven't raced at very sub-zero. Last time I did this was 37 years ago when I raced in Russia in that level of temperature. So that is completely different animal. So I may need to eat just because I may spend a lot of calories on warming up. So I'm unknown pieces there for me. But Ensure, I don't think I've ever seen any athlete using Ensure. Um, Again, it's probably too calorically dense. There's a lot of fat in that and protein. So I think most people are really carb heavy during the races, and I'm very calorie low. Like for me, it's just to keep the sugar level a little bit higher in the blood. That's why I just put most of what I've done in the past, all my runs, all my, everything. I just add a little bit of honey or sugar into the hydration, and I don't have any calories with me. Here, I'm going to be taking them just in case, because I just don't know what's going to happen. So I don't want to end up in the situation where I'm like completely exhausted. And I also don't know what kind of support they'll have on the track on the race itself. So yeah, just think about cross country skiing in the lovely places like forest bathing. Yes, absolutely. And imagine that the forest is still, snow around you, and it's just like, well, unless you don't like it, right? I grew up in this, so for me, this is like, that was my whole childhood. I totally bask in this glory. But some people may feel like, oh, no, I don't like. Yeah, so you need to enjoy it. Like you need to like that level of quiet, and that nature is sleeping, and that you're in it. And apparently this race is even more beautiful than the one in Wisconsin races, it's nice. It's a forest. The whole track is in the forest, and there are no loops, so you just go from one place to another. But it's a there are hills, but they're not mountains, and it's pretty flat otherwise in Wisconsin, relatively. I still loved it. I mean, I love any forest, but apparently Norway, you see mountains also, so it should be glorious views. That's what people say. Just hope that the weather will be good. Are there ways for coaches to follow? Yes. So if anybody is interested, the week before when everything goes live, they probably going to have. You can probably track me. So they're probably going to be a bid number, and you can look it up. So you can follow me on the race, I'm sure. All right. Well, it's 2:36. I don't see any actual medical questions today. You know the drill. If you're my patient, you need to ask me something personal. Stay after. Otherwise, I don't have a lot of updates, except to say that there hasn't been much of anything on the COVID. We're seemingly seeing a little bit of a drop down on flu and COVID. So I guess that's a good news. What else I wanted to share? There was something else I wanted to bring up and blanking on it. If it'll come back, I'll tell you, because there was some couple other news. Oh, next Friday, if you are interested, we're making a special exception for everybody. If you're in this program, you're entitled to come join our Recode open house. So the Recode is the reversal of Alzheimer's, and Precode is prevention of Alzheimer's. And I'm going to be giving a very detailed analysis of the Bredesen trial that just came out, the control trial. So if this is topic of your interest, and the whole team is going to be there, our nutritionist, our hormonal expert, our mold expert. If cognition is something you want to learn how to keep optimizing and not to lose your marbles, come join us. You do need to contact us. Oh, sorry, guys. Connection. Am I back? Okay. So I was saying we have our cognitive program 12 to 1 open house next week, same way on Zoom. If you're interested, message us. We will send you the link. Yeah, so that is the update. We've recently recorded some really cool podcasts, but I believe Janet had shared all of them. But I still will put the plug for Dr. Frame, and her team recently published a scoping review on the link between. Scoping review means it's like a systematic analysis, just not as big, but still very, very high quality in terms of how the analysis is done, looking at the link between gut microbiome and Alzheimer's disease, so cognitive health. So take a look. We will post that. It's already on our, I believe, right, Janet? I think it's already published on our platform on
Yes, it
the
is.
GW Integrative podcast. So you can find it on your favorite podcast, whether it's Spotify, Pandora, whatever you guys using to listen in. That's a really good conversation we had, and of course, there's links to find actual study if you're interested in taking a look. And we just submitted this week. Today is what, Friday? So I think Wednesday, Dr. Frame submitted the actual publication of our clinical trial, looking at the stool microbiome analysis and the patients with cognitive decline. So we're finding something interesting there. This is hopefully will get published quickly, and maybe we'll try to go after some grants. I'm hoping that we will get a grant to actually create a treatment based on what we found. So now I'm not going to tell you things yet, just because the publication has not been accepted. But one of my publications did get accepted last week. I don't know if it's not up yet, so I cannot share it with you, unfortunately. But that's okay. So that's we submitted publication. It's an invited special edition journal of medical. It's not JAMA. So there's JAMA and there's GMA, Journal of American Medicine, or JAM. And it's a special edition supervised by University of Arizona Integrative Medicine Program, Andrew Weil program, on integrative medicine. So we submitted an article on polypharmacy, how to minimize it, and what are the practical tools. And so we got accepted. There was a fellow, two of our fellows from geriatrics, one of our students, and me. So with that, I'm going to go back to the chat, see if anybody has any other medical question. Oh, almost forgot. So the recent study of the shingles vaccine preventing Alzheimer's disease. Yes, it's effective. There's no question. Janet sent it to me. Yeah, James, I don't know if you have a second, you can drop it in, or I can find it.
Yeah, I'll go get it.
Yeah, the data is not actually new. We knew about this for quite some time, that all kinds of viruses, when they become reactivated, and it happens frequently, they increase risk of cognitive decline, particularly Alzheimer's. The thinking is that when you have a frequent inflammatory responses, particularly when inflammation involves something on the upper part above the neck, so the herpes infections, the herpes 1, particularly herpes simplex 1, shingles, which is herpes zoster virus, potentially some other viruses, even Coxsackie, HSV6, and there's multiple different ones. So if you have a frequent infections, the belief is that some of that inflammatory response that is generated locally here creates oxidative stress in the brain and potentially causes the neuroinflammation spikes, which you don't want to have. So I think for that, if you are one of those people and you've never had a vaccine, especially, well, shingles vaccine, Shingrix, you definitely want to get that. That's the study is just confirming that deeper and more. But as I said, there was already enough data that I was recommending it. So for me, this wasn't new at all. But beyond that, if you don't want to take a vaccine, there are other ways to control inflammatory response would be the things we've been talking for all the time, right? So you could optimize immune system, you could just take anti-inflammatories, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so I want to transition to the mind-body part of today. But before I do that, let me tell you about Carol's talk. So if you go on TED platform and you put in search stress, you're literally going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of talks. And sometimes, like, I listen to another talk on stress and I'm like, well, I mean, I already heard this 10,000 times. Why am I hearing this again? But the way she positioned this was something really, I think, important to bring up. So we talk about stress reduction as the process of engagement. What do I mean by that? It's something to do. Listen to the music, go for a walk, exercise, do mindful breathing, sit and meditate, listen to some, meditation guru tape and just, tune in, so to speak. So that's what we typically hear, right? So then active. What Carol mentioned was something quite well, the way she positioned. She said, all of that is wonderful and we should all do that. But if we have the bottle half filled with root beer, and she had this visual, like, imagine this would be, I don't have a bottle here, do I? Imagine this is a bottle and it's half full with root beer. And she would say, I go to work, I have an argument with my colleague and it's like this. And then I get an email from my boss and it's like this. And then, I drive home and I almost get crashed in the car. And she's like, well, no, you don't want to open that bottle now, do you? Right? So, so that's the idea. We fill up, we boil up, and we don't release. And so and then she put the slide how antelope gets attacked by a tiger or a leopard or something. And leopard gets spooked, runs away. Antelope was laying looking dead, but it's not. It's just laying there. And then it gets up and it shakes violently for a few seconds. So that's the release. So the point is, we often don't realize how much the stress body takes on and then release. We've done this here. We've done Qigong shaking. We've done, the point where I'm going with all this is this. That release has to happen every day. Otherwise, we constantly take on, and even if you practice but you don't release, young people tend to release things through mainly two things. Anybody want to guess? Pretty easy. Put stuff in the chat. I'm curious how people think before I tell you anything. And I'm going to do a little release. I'm going to do a little shaking. Devices. Yes, Patricia, sex is one, big one. No, so trolling on social media is the opposite. Devices is the opposite. Device cannot be a release. Device is an additional stressor, regardless of what you do on it, right? Because device will trigger you to pay attention to the screen. Paying attention to the screen is not a natural engagement. It's not you can listen to the device and meditate in parallel. Yeah, that's fine. But the way we think of trolling on social media, it's a very active engagement. Yes, it's mindless, but believe it or not, it's actually stressful, right? There's a lot of information. So music is a great thought, but no. Well, no. Well, then there's three things. It's not music, but what specifically in relationship to music. Very common practice, right? You all know that. Come on. It is music, but what kind of music and in what form and how? Raves. Raves are the ultimate releases. When people are in a deep, high intensity, constant movement like this is one of the most profound releases. I mean, it's basically shaking. And when it's linked to the music and people do this for long periods of time, why do you think they're so popular? It's a release technique. The last one, of course, is just exercise. And exercise is a great release. But exercise doesn't work as a release for everybody. It's not universal. Sex is universal, and shaking and kind of dancing to a specific vibration, that's universal release. Why do you think I'm so big on Fred in a physiologic way? Fred, who's been doing the Monday alternative to Friday and who's been here a couple of weeks ago and hopefully will be with us regularly. When we're listening into the vibration sound of whether it's a beating of your heart or a beating of a drum, if you tune into it and you engage with it, that's a release. So those of you who interested in mysticism, you all know in every mystical tradition there is some kind of a mystical movement, whether it's a dance. In Sufism, it's whirling like this when you turn around the center. That's a release because you have to let go of everything and you have to allow the body to spin while you're breathing deeply and you're tuning into the chant always. So, there are gazillion release methods. You just have to find the one for yourself. Now, I'm wired like my father genetically. So for me, long distance or endurance exercise is probably one of the most natural releases just because I've lived my whole life with dad who did this. Interestingly, now that he just turned 90 yesterday and he's starting to get a bit more demented and, he's getting more frail, he's not moving as much. And I can see how that bottles him up now. And especially now with all the snow, he's very careful. So he's moving less. So that's laughter. Great. Laughter is a great release, especially when we're doing laughter yoga, right? That may be not necessarily millennials, but yeah, absolutely. So dancing, laughter, screaming, or running, absolutely. So it's a great method. So right, releases. But you also want to be very cognizant of that. So you do want to do this with that intent, right? Because if you just running and you're like thinking about what boss told you this morning and you're like, oh, right, so you want to think of that, right? When you're screaming or you're laughing, you probably don't have to do that because it's, of course, if you're screaming at another person and you're getting more and more pissed and they getting pissed and they screaming back at you, you see where I'm going with this. So and it has to be done in the right setting with the right direction. Nordic skier, yeah, Nordic skier is a great place to start. Just do understand that you can't substitute that for the real movement on a snow because the muscles work differently on a Nordic track. But it's great for the lower body conditioning for the classic, right? And then if you're getting the ski erg, those are the things where the legs don't move and you just do this. It's like rowing. That's awesome conditioning for the back. In fact, everybody does it. I don't do this year because I don't really care. Don't really care about my time. My back is conditioned enough from roller skiing in the summer and maintaining some kind of a skiing every week. So it's just, but yeah, that's a great. Dancing is probably most universal. Laughter is most universal. Shaking is most universal. So I'm gonna do something I never do. So let's do that. I don't dance, but I probably should. So here, let's just do this. Let me try something here. Let's see if it's gonna work. All right, where's my Spotify here? Give me 1 second, everybody. I need to, I hope I didn't, oh, I just opened a new window. It's okay. I have like 100 windows up top.
And that is why you keep on glitching. Close
Because
the
I have all this
windows.
windows. Ah, that may be. All right. Right. Hmm. All right, there we go. Let's put, what do we get? All right, you guys, I'm going to ask you, what do you want to hear? I'm going to try to put a clip that we can all dance to. And we're going to dance with a specific on release. And I want this sound to be, reasonably fast so that you can also shake, because I'm going to shake more than dance, because that's what works for me better. All right, anybody who wants to put something in the chat or unmute and say something? Oh, thanks, Steph, for putting Fred's link. It's great. Bad Bunny. Something Nigerian. Let's do it. I love it. But I need something specific. Like I can. Oh yeah, let me just put Nigerian. See what happens if I. Bad Bunny is not Nigerian. Yeah, Nigerian. African music in generally has beats that are so in sync with our general. Oh yeah, here. Let's just put Nigerian drum and see what happens. Somebody tell me if you're hearing this drum. Yes, no. I'm playing it now. Guys, can you show me whether you're not hearing? Okay, so how do I do this? Yeah, I think I need to probably. I'll try. If I share the screen, I wonder if probably. How about now? Can you hear anything? Can you hear the sound? No, right? All right. We need. I need some help here. I definitely hear the sound. I need someone to help out. Steph or.
Are you able to share the link in the chat?
No, we should just put the music in. I just never done it. That's why I'm saying this is new for me. So I don't know. There should be a way to share the. There's a term for that, right? It's How do I do that? The problem is I'm also not in a. Like I'm in a. I was not able to get my app on, so I'm in a screen in a web screen with Zoom. All right, well, I'm sorry. So let's just shake without sound then. Pick a sound you want, play something you want, and go ahead and shake. So start with probably the easiest thing to do is, let me stop sharing. I don't need that. Okay, just start with the upper body, start shaking the top, and then begin to add everything else. So it's like really, you should really feel everything shake from the below up. And if somebody can get the music to us, that'd be awesome. Because of course, shaking to music is way better when you can actually pick a rhythm of the vibration. Probably should have my drum. My drum is at the cabin. So just gonna shake without music, unfortunately. Or you can, I'm gonna play my own music here, but you guys can do the same. You can pick your own. I'm gonna put, how about I put Bad Bunny. Somebody recommended, so why not? How do I get there?
I'm gonna try and do a screen save.
All
Can
right.
you guys hear that?
Nope. Yeah, I don't know why why we're not hearing sound from others too, I guess. All right, I'm gonna put something here. I don't know what this is. All right, I'm playing Bad Bunny here. And just be as free as you can be. Allow your whole body. Maintain the vibration. So don't forget to breathe. Make sure your breath is not obstructed if you can't do it. All right, 30 more seconds. Pick up the speed. Shake your face. Make some noises. And right, stop. Just take a deep breath in. Raise your hands up. Release, let go. 2 more breaths. Inhale up. Exhale, drop. 1 more time. Okay. If you're standing or sitting, just close your eyes for a second if you can. Be safe, don't fall. And then just sense your body. See how energy is shifted. See if your head and the body is still buzzing a little bit from the movement. All right, so we just released the gas from the root beer bottle, as Carol would probably say. So I hope she can come join us and give us a little bit of taste of her practice like this. All right, perfect timing, 3 o'clock. If you need to stay here, please do. Otherwise, we'll see you next week. What do we have next week?